Hi, welcome, everybody. Welcome to You've Championed Yourself. Who are you? I'm Chris Ferguson, your host. It's always been a dream of mine to showcase people who have taken their dreams and ideas and then turned it into their reality. As they reach beyond their personal struggles, their pains, their traumas, where so many other people just give up, they stop, they just lose hope. There are those few who can walk through their obstacles and challenges, not knowing where it's going to take them to. They trust themselves enough not to give up, to do the follow through in their personal life, their career, and in their relationships. These are people who champion themselves. This morning, I have Kimberlee Plezia, and she is all about this fat girl's life. So I want to bring her in, and so we can talk about that. And I know we all have issues with being overweight and how we feel and how it makes us feel. So I'm bringing Kimberlee in. Let's talk. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. I'm actually awesome. But the reason why I loved your topic, because I remember I was never that fat kid, but I was muscular. So I had to wear larger clothes than my actual size. And so the fact is I get it. And at my heaviest weight, I weighed 242 pounds. So I lived that life and I know how I felt. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to talk to you about your backstory, what you've been through, how you overcame those incidences that you just didn't know what to do.
And that seems like the story of my life for 36 years. Because of what I went through as a child and even into adulthood, I didn't know what love was supposed to look like. Mm-hmm. I didn't know what I was worth, what I deserved. I thought pain was what my life was supposed to be.
I get it.
Sucked.
I get it. So when, just to give you some background on me, so just to help you feel a little more comfortable, my dad was a miserable alcoholic and my mother was physically violent. And when they got divorced in the 60s, people didn't get divorced. And the Catholic Church told my mother they would help her find a place that would, take us so that she could get on with her life and doing things. So I turned 8 in February. May I had my first Holy Communion. And in June, 6 kids, the youngest was 5, I was 8, were put in an orphanage and my mother walked away. So I understand the traumas. I understand the pains. I was bullied horribly. 2 girls tried to murder me there, and I ran away at 14 and lived on the streets. So I understand these traumas and the pains to the core. But I also knew this wasn't me. This isn't who I am. And I literally just retired this year in May from 40 years in law enforcement. So I didn't allow what happened to me to define me. So that's why I felt your story was so, so important, because I didn't know how to love. My dad had 4 more kids with somebody. My mother had 1 more kid. So there's 11 of us total. And I'm 2 out of the 11 that has a college degree. I'm 2 of 4 that has a home that I own. So it is all about choices. It is all about finding out who you are and going within. So I just wanted you to know this is where I came from. And I've used the last 21 years of my life or my career to deal with troubled youth. And it was because they don't have the guidance. They don't have the support. They don't have the understanding what their decisions do and how it can make their life change like that.
And I think what you just said about, using that past pain, that's why I do what I do. I'll just kind of jump in, feet first. When I was 8 years old, I was sexually assaulted for over a year by my stepfather.
Ooh.
And I remember him telling me so vividly, I do this because I love you. So at the age of 8, that's what I thought love was. Mm-hmm. Love was supposed to hurt me. Love was supposed to make me feel about an inch tall. Mm-hmm. went through the joy that is high school as an overweight female in a small town. That sucked.
I get it.
And then I went into college and into adulthood. Married my first husband, who I thought I was in love. He wanted a green card.
Oh.
I was never supposed to be able to have children. And when we went through everything with my stepfather, they told my mom then I would never have children because of the damage he did. Somehow, by the grace of God, I got pregnant.
Wow.
And even at the beginning of the pregnancy, the doctor was saying, don't get attached. You're not going to carry to term. And kids were not part of my first husband's plan. And that's, as the pregnancy progressed, the abuse got worse. I remember a week before I gave birth, him throwing me against the wall.
Was he trying to hurt you so you would abort the baby?
I think he was just, in general, angry. I don't know that he had a malicious intention of trying to make me lose the baby, but he was angry at the fact that I was pregnant. He came from a very different culture, where women are supposed to be very submissive and subservient. And I was not. And none of the women in my family were. And it just, I wasn't what he thought I was going to be. And
do you think he thought he could, by being so hard on you and physically hard and the abuse, beat you into submission?
Yes.
Okay. Because that's kind of what I felt. And I was like, there's a lot of men who do that. And there's a lot of women who do that too. So just with that out there, it's just, they want to try to control you. It's all about control.
And that's exactly what I think he was trying to do. Ended up having a beautiful daughter. If that was it really was the only good thing that came out of that marriage. But, my daughter is amazing. She is now a mother.
Awesome.
So that's how long ago that was. But when she was 5 months old, I finally left him. I was like, you know what? He is not going to put his hands on my daughter. It's not going to happen. Went through that divorce, went into my second marriage, and again was drawn to that controlling, manipulative person. Right. My second husband was just as controlling, but he was a master manipulator. He was a narcissist.
I was just going to say, is there an N-word in here?
Yes.
Yeah.
He was definitely a narcissist. But in the process of that relationship, I injured my shoulder. And it wasn't at his hands. It was, I fell on ice and did a slight tear in my rotator cuff.
Oh, wow.
And was in extreme pain. My second husband was addicted to Dilaudid.
Oh.
And decided to share. And
or did he take?
Oh, no, it was his Dilaudid that I used the first time. And you never take something like that thinking, I'm going to become addicted.
Yes.
It was, I am in extreme pain. I cannot even reach my arm behind my back to hook my bra. I need something.
Right.
And so he actually shot me up with Dilaudid. The next day, I finally had a moment to go to the ER, and they gave me Dilaudid. So in my head, I'm thinking, okay, well, this is the medication I'm supposed to be on.
Right.
not really knowing anything about it, not realizing how addictive it is. And that was the start of my addiction. I was an addict for 8 years to Dilaudid and meth.
Did they ever fix your shoulder?
No, it was such a small tear that it resolved.
Okay.
So I never had to go through surgery for that.
Okay, good.
But I spent 8 years as a very hardcore addict. I still have scars on my arms from shooting it.
Right.
On July...
I have a question. Did it take the pain away emotionally for the moment? Is that...
Oh, completely. When you're using drugs like that, you become numb to everything. And I think that's where the appeal was for me. You know, when it first started, it was about relieving pain. But then, like, I didn't feel anything. I didn't have to feel anything mentally, anything emotionally. I was just numb to everything. And so there was no processing of anything that I had been through in my life. There was no healing from it.
Right.
It just didn't exist because I was in a fog the whole time.
What was the key that got you to stop?
July 25th of 2014, my second husband passed away. July 27, I tried to take my own life.
Okay.
I was out of the drugs and, you know, feeling not only my own emotions, but dealing with the death of my second husband. And I just couldn't, in my own head, I couldn't process, I couldn't deal. So I took a handful of pills, primarily Ativan and a few other things like that, with the full intent of just dying that day. My mom was the one that found me, and I was very passed out on the bed.
Right.
She got me to the ER, where I stayed for 8 hours as they were trying to monitor and control my blood pressure, because it kept spiking up and then dropping down.
Right.
From there, I went to a behavioral health facility for 2 weeks, where they medically detoxed me. They could not allow me to go through detox on my own, because of how much I had in my system.
Right.
From the behavioral health facility, I went into rehab for 8.5 months.
And is that the point that it worked?
Yes.
Okay.
July 27 this year will be 7 years that I have not used.
I want to say to you, I honor you and I thank you for these struggles that you've gone through, but it also, I think, has made you who you are. And that is amazing, because you didn't have, if it was your time to go, it would be your time to go. And evidently, this is the reason why you're here today, is to get your message out.
And I firmly believe that. When I came back from rehab, when I went to rehab, I went across the state of Colorado. Like, I went to this little itty bitty town where I knew nobody. It was almost in Utah.
Was it Grand Junction?
It's actually right out by Grand Junction. It was Olathe.
I grew up in Colorado. I have family all over the state. Okay. So when you said a small town in Colorado, I was like, oh, it's got to be the west part of the state, because that's where the towns get really small. I mean, there's some small towns if you get to the southeast of the state.
Oh, there's some on the Eastern Plains as well. That's where I grew up. Stratton.
Where did you grow up?
Stratton.
Do you know where Brush and Sterling is? I have family there, Fort Morgan.
Yep.
So it's a small world.
It is.
I never lived there, but my dad ended up going there, and I hooked up with him when I had my daughter. And it was like, my thing is that I don't owe you anything. You've never been in my life. but I want to do the right thing by telling you you're a grandfather now, and it was his first grandchild. And I said, now it's your responsibility to stay in touch with her.
Mm-hmm.
And it's on you. It's on you, knowing that she's 2 years old, and as much as you're out of her mind, she won't know you. So yeah, so it's interesting. I just love the fact that it is a small world, and we're all connected. Actually,
Yes, very much so.
that's amazing.
Well, when I came back from Olathe, I live in Colorado Springs.
That's where I grew up. I was stationed at Fort Carson.
I knew I needed to change things, so I got myself involved with a church. Found a really tiny little church that it was like family. Just they were so welcoming, and ended up getting into church leadership. And I was given an assignment from Taj, who was the pastor at the time, now my best friend. I had to put myself in a position to be totally and completely rejected. Well, me being the person that I am, I put an ad on Craigslist.
Okay.
I want somebody to take me out to lunch, and you're buying. My now husband responded. Yeah, John responded to it. We started talking, and now it's been, next April will be our 5-year wedding anniversary.
Awesome. Congratulations.
Thank
so
you.
My question to you is now, what does love mean to you?
For me, love means being there. It means supporting that person, being their biggest cheerleader, being that person that they can cry to about anything, being that person that I could call my husband on a break and just word vomit all over him. And he's still going to love me. He's still going to be there for me.
Have you started loving yourself yet?
I actually started loving myself in rehab.
Good.
That's where I learned how to love myself. I learned what love was actually supposed to look like. I learned what I was worth and what I deserved.
I like that. I like that a lot.
And my husband and I, even before we even met face to face, we had a long conversation of, look, if we're going to do this, this is what I need from you. And this is what I can bring to the table. And if this doesn't work, say so now. When we walk away, and no hard feelings.
Right.
But if you cannot give me these things that I need,
right,
say so.
Right.
And so we were very open about that from the beginning, because he had been through bad marriages. I had been through hell.
Right.
And I was not going to put myself in that position again.
Can we talk about your gifts as far as your public speaking and then the music portion of it? I'm curious.
So the music thing, my aunt is a music teacher. She was actually my music teacher throughout all of school. That has been my passion. It's been a passion of mine for as long as I can remember.
Right.
I went into college on a music scholarship. That was my role of church leadership, was as a worship leader.
Right.
That's one of the places where I find my joy. You see those memes on Facebook of, if you're riding in a car with me, you're going to get a concert. That is very true.
I love that. I can't sing worth of nothing, so I don't, but I'll hum. But I love music too.
I sing constantly. I don't play instruments anymore because I don't have time. But if you were to ever look at my phone, at my playlist, it's one of the most eclectic playlists you'll ever see. I have everything from Metallica to Miley Cyrus to Clint Black, and just everything in between.
Right. I gotcha. So where do you do your public speaking at?
So I actually run 3 podcasts.
Awesome.
And I am a life coach. Awesome. I am also in the process of putting together my first summit.
Awesome.
All about building a relationship with yourself, because it's one of the most important relationships you will ever have in life.
Absolutely. It is. It truly, truly is. And I love that you said that. If anybody wanted to get a hold of you, where would they go?
So I've got a large Facebook presence as well as Instagram. But you can also just go to my website, www.thisfatgirllife.com.
Love it.
You will see every podcast episode for all 3 of my podcasts that I've ever done. You'll see previous blog posts where I've talked about everything from the abuse that I went through to the loss of my mother to finding a lump in my breast. I have made myself a very open book, because I feel like other people struggle with that stuff.
I love that about you, because most people don't know. In 2012, I thought I was having a heart attack. So I drove myself to the hospital because I didn't have anything, because my husband was still living in South Florida. He hadn't retired yet. I get up there, they do all these tests, they do all this stuff, and they said, ma'am, your heart's fine, but we have to admit you to the hospital. And I said, what do you mean my heart's fine? What's wrong? And they said, ma'am, you have 2 pulmonary embolisms, 1 in each lung.
Oh, my word.
Yeah. And I'm like, I'm a little confused. I'm thinking about my mother-in-law died from an embolism. And then it was like going into a Charlie Brown classroom and the teacher's going, wah, 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 wah. So I get it. And I understand it. I've had 3 near-death experiences and had a car collision, cancer, and then the blood clots. And so the fact is I've walked those miles. And most people don't realize how closely we are really connected in our lives. Just because I was in law enforcement doesn't mean I'm any different than any other human being on the planet. I have my struggles, I have my obstacles, I had my challenges, but I wasn't willing to allow anybody to tell me I can't do it. So when I moved from Florida up here to Tennessee, I had to get Tennessee certified. I was 60 years old. I went through the police academy. I successfully completed it. I was the oldest, but I outran 19-year-olds, 20-year-olds, 30-year-olds, 40-year-olds, 50-year-olds. I mean, there was some awesome people in the academy that could outrun me, but I wasn't the last one, even though I was the oldest. So I guess my message is to everybody, and this is what I try to preach to everybody: you can do anything. Age is just a number. You don't have to say, oh, well, I'm 60 years old, I can't do this. We limit ourselves. So yes. So Kimberlee, I love and I honor you for all the things that you've been through and all the accomplishments you have made, because that speaks volume of your integrity. It speaks volume of how you've come out of it to become your best version of you. And that's amazing. This is the whole reason I wanted to do this podcast. You've championed yourself. Who are you? Is to talk to ordinary people who have walked through it and that now are giving back in ways to other people that most people never hear about. You don't hear it on the news. You don't hear anything positive anymore. And that is why I did this podcast. I've had people tell me, oh, it's not going to work out. I said, watch me. Don't tell me I can't do this. Watch me. So I just allow people to come tell their stories, talk about where they were, how they came out of it, and who they became. So I honor you. I thank you for coming today. I enjoyed this conversation immensely.
Well, thank you so much for having me on your show and allowing me to share my story. And I hope that somebody can relate to it and know that where you are in your struggle does not define where
Yeah.
you're going to end up.
Yes. I love, that's my statement. That's my core statement. My past does not define me.
I
It's
have those exact words tattooed on my back.
my past does not define me. It's who I am and what steps I take forward. So I love it. So thank you very much for coming and spending time with me. And I thank you for your vulnerability. I thank you for your honesty, and have a great day and a great week.
Thank you. You as well.
Wow. Wow. This, again, this is why I created this podcast, is to show there's people going through so much and they're overcoming it. They're learning the lessons, whatever that might be, whatever we think. When you have no support when you're younger and you have no direction or guidance, you don't know what love is. I didn't know what love was. I hated life so much after I was put in the orphanage. I didn't care. I didn't care. So I absolutely resonate with Kimberlee's story. It takes a special kind of individual to dream their thoughts and their ideas and turn them into reality. Kimberlee stepped past her fears, stayed the course, and had the courage to follow through to the end. Kimberlee, you've championed yourself. Now we know who you've become. Thank you for sharing your ideas, your thoughts, and your dreams with us today.